Have you ever asked yourself why things that feel unfair, painful, or meaningless happen to you? Maybe it was a loss, a betrayal, an unexpected change, or a door closing in your face at the exact moment you were sure you were on the right path. And in those moments, when everything seems to be falling apart, we look up to the sky and ask, "Why, God?" But what we often fail to understand is this: God doesn't make mistakes. And everything He allows into our lives, yes, everything, has a purpose. Today, I want to speak to you with an open heart. And I want to show you that even in the middle of the storm, He is still working. Even when you can't see it. Maybe you're here today because you're going through something you can't explain. Something that's hurting you. Something that seems meaningless. And I want to tell you not just a comforting phrase, but a truth that countless people have personally experienced. Everything happens for a reason. There isn't a single tear that God doesn't see. There isn't a single moment He doesn't use to build something greater. Maybe you don't understand it today. But one day, when you look back, you will. Because when God allows something, He does it with a plan. With a purpose. With a lesson. With a blessing hidden behind the pain. What looks like chaos today may become your strongest testimony tomorrow. So stay with me. Because this message is for you. I know there are many people who want to grow closer to God. But for different reasons, they don't have a place of worship nearby. They can't go. Or they still haven't found a place where they feel peace. That's why this channel exists. You can come here exactly as you are. No matter where you are. To connect with God in a real and sincere way. No matter what your past looks like. No matter what your story is. No matter what situation you're in. This is your place. Your spiritual refuge. Here, the Word of God can reach your heart without barriers. God has a plan. Now prepare your heart. Because what you're about to hear may be the very thing your soul has been waiting for. And believe me, the ending of this prayer may become the most special moment of your day. Stay until the end. You won't regret it. Chapter 1. Sometimes we find ourselves right in the middle of a difficult season. And even when we try to hold on to our faith, our hearts become filled with questions. Why me? Why now? Why like this? We feel like everything is falling apart. Like the pieces no longer fit together. The plan we thought we had built collapses right before our eyes. But in that exact moment, we need to stop. Take a deep breath. And remember one fundamental truth. God sees what you cannot see. While you only see a torn page, He sees the entire book. You see a painful present, but He sees the future that will heal you. He knows the beginning, the process, and the final purpose. And even when we don't understand why things happen, God never loses control. Nothing slips from His hands. God says, "For those who love me, all things work together for your good." Notice carefully. He doesn't say, "some things." He doesn't say, "only the good things." He says all things. That means this. The very thing breaking you inside today may become the thing that makes you stronger tomorrow. The thing making you cry today may be the very thing God is using to lead you where you're truly meant to be. Because as human beings, we usually connect blessings with comfort, beauty, and immediate results. But many times, the real blessing is found in the process. In the pain that shapes us. In the waiting that matures us. in the loss that teaches us what truly matters. God doesn't want you to suffer. But sometimes growth comes through painful things. Just as a potter molds clay, applies pressure, and shapes it with his hands, God is working on you too. Today, I want you to place this truth deep in your heart. Even when you don't understand, even when you can't see a way out, even when everything looks dark, God is still in control. He doesn't improvise. He doesn't get confused. He doesn't act by accident. And if you're going through something difficult, there is a reason behind it, one you may not know yet, but He fully understands. So instead of constantly asking, why? Start asking, what is this teaching me? How is God shaping me through this process? What is He preparing me for? If you can change your perspective, your heart will find peace even before you have all the answers. Because sometimes we don't need to understand everything. We simply need to trust. And that kind of trust, the kind that doesn't depend on circumstances, is the kind of faith that moves mountains. Chapter 2. The purpose behind the pain, what God sees while you suffer. Sometimes in life, we reach a point where the pain becomes so deep, so overwhelming, that we start believing God has forgotten us. We pray, but no answer comes. We cry out, but heaven seems silent. We become disappointed, anxious. Some people even think about giving up completely. But what we fail to see is this. In the very moment everything feels empty, God may be working more powerfully than ever in places you cannot see. The first thing we need to understand is this. Pain is not a sign that God has abandoned you. In fact, many times those are the moments when He is closest to you. Because He is like a surgeon. When surgery is necessary, He must open the wound. He must cut. And yes, it often hurts. But He does it not to destroy you, but to heal you. Not to make you suffer, but to remove the very thing inside you that is harming you. God is not watching your pain from far away. He is a Father who cries with you. And at the same time, He is the one who can see beyond today. God says, "As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." Do you know what that means? You only see a small piece. But God sees the entire map. You see a dark day, but He has already prepared the dawn. You see failure, but He sees deliverance. And here's the truth many people don't want to accept. Sometimes, before God takes us where He wants us to be, He removes certain things from our lives. Sometimes it's a relationship that isn't right for you, even though you don't realize it yet. Sometimes it's a season of loneliness that God allows. Not because He wants to punish you, but because He wants you to learn how to depend on Him alone. Because when everything else is gone, and only God remains, you realize He was always enough. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. So when you are shattered inside, God doesn't move away from you. He comes closer, like a father holding his wounded child in His arms, like a shepherd leaving the 99 to search for the one lost sheep. He comes near to remind you that you are not alone. And even in the middle of this pain you're feeling, God is shaping something valuable inside you. Remember this. The most precious stones are formed under pressure. The purest gold is refined in fire. The strongest character is built through struggle. And the same thing is happening to you. You are not being destroyed. You are being prepared. You are not losing. You are being shaped. You have not been forgotten. You are being formed in the hands of your Creator. Even if you feel broken, even if your life seems shattered, God will never ignore you. He gathers your broken pieces again. He lifts you back up. He reshapes you. But this time, not according to your plan, but according to His design. And here's something very important. Many times we ask God to bless us. We ask Him to take us to greater places. But we don't want to endure the process. We want ease to come. But we don't want the difficulty that leads to it. We want success. But we don't want the test. Yet everything in life has a cost. And if you're in a season of testing right now, it doesn't mean God made a mistake. It means He is building within you the strength necessary to carry what He is about to give you in the future. Think about it this way. God won't place something great in your hands before strengthening them first. Before He opens a door for you, He develops the humility needed for you to walk through that door without pride. Before He places you before great people, He teaches you how to serve faithfully where nobody applauds you. So if everything feels difficult right now, if God seems silent, maybe He is actually working quietly behind the scenes. Like an architect drawing the plans before building a house. What you don't understand today may become your testimony tomorrow. What hurts you today may become your purpose tomorrow. Because God never wastes the pain of His children. He turns it into part of a story that will touch other people's lives. So don't see pain as a curse. See it as preparation. This is not the end. It's part of the divine process. And never forget this. God doesn't make mistakes. Everything has a reason. And if you're going through this right now, it means something greater is coming behind it. Chapter 3. When God closes a door, He is actually protecting you. There are moments in life when a door suddenly closes. An opportunity you were certain about disappears. A relationship ends. A job doesn't go the way you hoped. And there you stand. Confused. Wounded. Asking yourself, what did I do wrong? We feel like we failed. We feel like something has been taken away from us. Sometimes we even complain to God. But most of the time, what we fail to see is this. When God closes a door, He does it out of love. Yes, out of love. Because God doesn't only open paths. He also closes the paths that would lead you to the wrong place. And at first, that kind of love can hurt. Because it pulls you away from what you want, but brings you closer to what you truly need. While you are looking in one direction, God, who already sees the end of the road, may be telling you, don't go that way. Because there are things you don't know. People who seem right, but don't have the right heart. Places that look peaceful, but are actually traps. Projects that seem promising, but would pull you away from your connection with God. That's why when a door closes, instead of fighting with God, we should thank Him. Because if He closed that door, there was something behind it that you couldn't see at the time. God says, no one can shut what I open, and no one can open what I shut. What does that mean? When God moves, no one can reverse His decision. And if He removes something from your life, it's because He is preparing something better for you. Because He never acts without purpose. Because God sees far beyond what we can see. He knows exactly what you need. And exactly when you need it. And sometimes closed doors aren't someone else's fault. They are actually the answer to our own prayers. That sounds surprising, doesn't it? But think about it. You pray to God and say, "Lead me to my purpose. Remove the things from my life that are hurting me." And then, when God starts removing people, tearing down unstable things, and taking away what isn't meant for you, you suffer. But what did you expect? When you pray sincerely, God gives real answers. And sometimes the truth hurts. But it heals. Like a farmer pruning a tree. The tree doesn't understand why it's being cut. It only feels the pain. But what it doesn't know is that the pruning will help it bear even more fruit. God said, "Every branch that bears fruit He prunes, so it will bear even more fruit." So maybe God isn't punishing you. Maybe He is cleansing you. Maybe He is growing you. And if you are going through a season where things are being cut away from your life, maybe it's not because you failed. Maybe it's because you are growing. And this is where faith is tested. Because it's easy to believe when everything goes the way you want. Real faith appears when things don't go the way you expected. That's the moment when you decide. Will you trust God's plans? Or only your own understanding? God is not taking you away from your destiny. He is preparing you for it. He is closing the wrong doors, so you can arrive at the right place prepared. Because it's not only about arriving. It's about arriving with character, with faith, with maturity, and with a heart aligned with heaven. So if you are standing in front of a closed door today, don't lose hope. Maybe this isn't the end. Maybe it's the beginning. Maybe behind that closed door, there is a new path God prepared with love and wisdom. And if you keep trusting, if you keep walking, if you keep your faith alive, one day you will understand. Everything you lost was simply space God cleared, so He could fill your life with something better. Because when God closes a door, He is also protecting you. And even if you can't see it right now, that is a perfect act of love. Chapter 4. God's silence also speaks. One of the hardest moments a person can experience is this. You pray with all your heart. You seek God. But it feels like no answer is coming. You lift your hands. You cry out with tears. But all you feel is silence. And in that silence, your mind starts working against you. God isn't here anymore. He forgot you. Your prayers don't matter. But there is a truth you must carve into your soul. God's silence does not mean His absence. It means instruction. God doesn't always answer the way we expect, or in the timing we want. But that doesn't mean He has forgotten you. Sometimes He stays silent, because He is working in places you still cannot see. On another level. In another dimension. In unseen places. His silence is not punishment. It is preparation. Like a teacher during an exam. The teacher stays silent, but hasn't left the room. The teacher is watching to see if the student truly learned. And sometimes God tests your faith in silence. Will you continue believing even when you feel nothing? Will you keep walking even when you see nothing? Because real faith is not built on feelings. It is built on absolute trust. It's not about feeling God. It's about knowing He is there. Even when the promise seems delayed, God is still on the way. And when He arrives, He won't be late. He will arrive exactly on time. That is the kind of God we believe in. Sometimes He makes us wait. But He never fails. Sometimes miracles gain strength in silence. The glory of God doesn't always appear before the pain. Sometimes it appears after it. Maybe you are at that point right now. You did the right thing. You prayed. You believed. But nothing seems to be happening. And the enemy whispers in your ear, "You don't matter anymore. God doesn't hear you. You are alone." But no. You are not alone. You are being shaped. You are in heaven's waiting room. And God is preparing things there that you cannot even imagine. Even if you feel silence today, you can still choose to trust. Because silence teaches you something else too. Dependence. When God becomes silent, you learn to listen beyond the noise. You learn to seek Him more deeply. To walk not by what you see, but by what you believe. And that grows you. It strengthens you from within. Sometimes God is working in other people during that silence. Arranging events. Preparing hearts. Moving things you cannot see. Like a seed planted in the ground. You plant the seed. You water it. But for days you see nothing. Yet underneath the soil, great things are happening. Roots are forming. Strength is developing. The plant is becoming stable. Your life may be the same right now. Everything may look still. But beneath the surface, God may be moving. And when the time comes, you will understand. His silence was not neglect. It was part of the process for greater fruit. So don't fear the silence. Don't run from the waiting. Even if you can't feel Him, God is with you. Even if everything seems still, He is still faithful. Because His love does not depend on your feelings. It depends on who He is. And He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Chapter 5. Sometimes pain is part of the divine plan. Sometimes in life, we face a difficult truth. Pain can also be part of God's plan. And this is exactly where many people begin to drift away. Because many believe, consciously or unconsciously, that God only allows beautiful things. Happy moments. Easy roads. But sacred history, life itself, and the wisdom of faith reveal another truth. Pain, as painful as it may be, can become the tool God uses to shape the masterpiece He wants to create within us. No, we are not talking about a cruel God. We are talking about a God who sees beyond the moment. A God who knows some lessons are learned only through brokenness. Some character is formed only through suffering. And some wisdom is developed only through trials. Some seasons drain us completely. And even if we don't realize it at first, that emptiness becomes new space for God to fill. A new strength. A new perspective. A new spiritual depth. A depth you could never reach any other way. The sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed. Do you see? God wants to teach us this. The goal is not to escape pain. The goal is to understand that pain is not meaningless when it comes. Every tear can become a seed of blessing. Every dark night can become the stage where God's light shines even brighter. Every fall can become the beginning of a stronger, deeper, more genuine faith. The purest processes are never the easiest ones. God did not choose us for a problem-free life. He chose us for a purposeful life. And sometimes that purpose includes walking through fire. But that doesn't mean you should surrender to pain. It doesn't mean pain is your destiny. It means this: if you are in pain, there is something God wants to teach you. Something you must release. Something He wants to transform. Purposeful pain changes people. The enemy wants to use your pain to destroy you. But God uses it to raise you higher. The enemy says, "You are finished." But God says, "I am refining you. I am strengthening you. I am cleansing your heart." Because when everything falls apart, God finds the perfect opportunity to build something new. And if you are going through something you don't understand today, if you have been betrayed, rejected, broken, you can look toward heaven and say, "Maybe the enemy planned this for evil, but God will turn it into good." God never wastes pain. Every broken piece of your life, every loss, every tear, He uses it to build something greater. So don't focus only on what you lost in the middle of your pain. Look at what you gained within it. Because what was taken from you may have only been the shell covering the treasure God placed inside you. And if you are walking through a season like this today, you are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are in the Potter's hands. And His work in your life is not finished yet. What looks like a wound today will become a mark of victory tomorrow. What brought you to your knees today will one day become the strength that lifts others up. Remember this: pain in God's hands always has a purpose. And if He allowed it, it's not because He made a mistake. It's because He is preparing you for something greater than you can understand right now. Chapter 6. Waiting isn't wasting time, it's part of the divine design. One of the greatest tests people who walk with God face is learning how to wait. And we're not talking about waiting a few minutes. We're talking about waiting for weeks, months, even years, for something your heart deeply longs for. Maybe an answer. Maybe an open door. Maybe healing. Maybe a promise. And during that long waiting season, many hearts grow cold. Some people give up. Some walk away. Because if God seems delayed, they think He isn't coming anymore. But that's not the truth. Waiting isn't punishment. It's a sacred tool God uses to align your heart with His will. God doesn't work in a hurry. He doesn't move according to our clock. He has His own timing. And somehow, His timing is always right. There is a time for everything. That includes your prayers, your dreams, your promises, everything. When you truly understand this, you learn to trust even when it looks like nothing is moving. Because waiting reveals intentions. While you're waiting, God isn't only working on what you asked for. He's also working on you. He purifies your intentions, strengthens your character, builds patience, and most importantly, deepens your faith. Because it's easy to believe when everything is going well, but continuing to trust when the silence gets longer, when the answers don't come, when the sky seems closed. While waiting, the important thing isn't only protecting your faith. It's protecting your faithfulness too. Because while God prepares the promise, you must prepare your obedience. Sometimes the blessing hasn't arrived yet. Not because God is withholding it, but because we're not ready to carry it yet. Waiting is where preparation happens. And when the preparation is complete, God won't be 1 second late. So if you're waiting for something today, Don't see that season as wasted time. See it as part of the design. God doesn't delay. He perfects. What feels like delay to you may actually be a process of maturity. Maybe you're maturing. Maybe your surroundings. Maybe the person you've been praying for. But know this. When everything is ready, God will move. Because when God speaks a promise, He fulfills it. There is a saying, "Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall soar on wings like eagles." Waiting on God doesn't mean sitting still doing nothing. It means trusting while moving, praying while working, believing while walking. It means continuing to worship even when you can't see anything. Because when you wait with faith, you're not only carrying a promise, God is carrying you. And there's another truth many people forget. What comes after a long season of waiting is always worth it. God won't make you wait for years just to give you something small. If He's making you wait, what's coming is bigger than you imagine. Not only bigger, but fuller, more right, more aligned with what you truly need. So if everything feels paused today, don't lose your faith. Don't think you've been ignored. Like an instrument being tuned for the perfect moment, you are being prepared. And when that moment comes, you'll understand that every pain you endured, every day you waited, everything you had patience for, had a purpose. Because with God, nothing is wasted. And if you're waiting on Him, you're exactly where you need to be. Chapter 7. God uses unexpected things to lead you to the right place. Some paths seem right to us, but they aren't the path God designed for us. And many times, what leads us to our true purpose isn't what we planned. It's what we never expected to live through. God's way of guiding is different. Sometimes He leads us through roads we don't understand. He disrupts our comfort zone. He breaks the systems we built. But even when we don't realize it, those roads are taking us exactly where we need to be. Because we walk with limited vision. We have plans, goals, paths we've drawn in our minds. And making plans isn't wrong. When everything suddenly changes, we think we've failed. But not every change is failure. Sometimes it's simply God redirecting you. He sees what you can't see. He knows what's ahead of you. That's why what feels like a step backward may actually be the shortest road to your purpose. Maybe today you're going through a process you never wanted. Maybe you experienced a loss you didn't expect. Maybe a change happened that left you confused. But what if the thing that surprised you is the very thing God will use to lead you to your true purpose? What if the change that hurt you the most was actually the answer to a prayer you prayed without realizing it? God doesn't always answer only with yes or no. Sometimes He answers by removing people, by clearing obstacles from your path. Because what you call an obstacle, God may see as a doorway. While you're asking, why? He is preparing the what for. There is a saying, a person plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. You can make plans. You can dream. But in the end, it's God who orders your steps. And if you trust Him, even what looks like a mistake can become a miracle. Because God often fulfills His greatest purposes through processes that look messy. He uses what is broken, what was rejected, what seems small, what people call impossible. And do you know why? So that when you finally arrive, You won't be able to say, "I did this with my own strength." You'll only be able to say, "God did this." So don't panic when unexpected things knock on your door. Don't lose hope just because the path suddenly changed. Maybe God is rewriting your destiny. Maybe He's leading you somewhere you never imagined. But somewhere He had planned from the very beginning. So trust Him. Even if you don't understand. Even if you cry. Even if it hurts. Because in the very moment everything seems to be going wrong, you may actually be closer than ever to your true direction. Because God doesn't improvise. He sees ahead. He prepares. He guides. And the unexpected things you're experiencing today may become the complete fulfillment of the plan God wrote for you tomorrow. Chapter 8. When you lose something, God may actually be making room for something better. Sometimes in life, something leaves you. A person. An opportunity. A place. A dream you've carried in your heart for a long time. And that thing either leaves without explanation, or the explanation you're given doesn't satisfy your soul. It hurts. You feel an emptiness inside. You feel like you've lost something that belonged to you. Something you valued, prayed for, and believed was part of God's plan. And then you look up to heaven and ask, "Why, God? Why did you take this from me now?" But there is a deep truth many people struggle to accept. Sometimes God allows you to lose something because He's making room. Room for what's coming. Room for what will truly build your life. Out of His love, He removes what you would never have let go of on your own. It's hard to accept that losing something can mean moving forward. Because we get attached. We hold on. We don't want to release the things we've given our hearts to. But God, who knows tomorrow better than we do, knows when something season in your life has ended. He sees when a chapter is over. And even when you still want to stay there. God says, "That's enough now. It's time to grow." Loss means letting go. It means pain. But it also means growth, expansion, and purpose. Because if we never let go of anything, we would never grow. People grow the most when their comfort zone is shaken. When something leaves and forces you to look within yourself, to think deeper, to seek God more. That's when transformation begins. When viewed through faith, that loss may become the beginning of something greater. When one source dries up, it doesn't mean God's provision has ended. It simply means the season has changed. That's the key. What ended wasn't God's care. It was only the end of that season. And when a season changes, you must learn how to release what no longer belongs there. Because if you keep holding on to what no longer bears fruit, you become spiritually stagnant. You keep walking, but dry up inside. You keep breathing, but lose your direction. Even if you lose part of the road, God will still continue guiding you. And if He allowed it, you can trust Him. Because God never removes something from your life without preparing something more right in its place. And this is where many people stumble the most. They want the new, but they don't want to release the old. They want progress, but they keep holding on to the past. But God doesn't pour new things into chaos. He doesn't fill an overflowing vessel. Sometimes, before the thing you've been praying for can arrive, space must first be created within you. Maybe the loss you're experiencing, created the emotional space God needed to work in your heart. Maybe that goodbye made you depend on God more deeply. Maybe that closed door forced you to search for new paths, not as punishment, but as divine direction. And if you can see it that way, your pain will no longer feel meaningless. Your loss will become a step toward your calling. Because sometimes what you lost wasn't the blessing. The real blessing is what comes after you learn to trust, after you let go, after you obey without understanding. So don't cling to what God is asking you to release. Don't live trapped in the memory of the past. Because your destiny isn't hidden in what you lost. It's hidden in what God still wants to give you. And if God loves you, and believe me, He loves you deeply, then you can be sure of this. Behind every loss He allowed, there is something greater, higher, and more eternal. We are a family united around the love of God. If this video brought peace, comfort, and calm to your soul, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. You can share your prayer requests and thoughts with us in the comments. Walk in peace, live in faith, and stay close to God.